I'm assuming if you, watching this video, yes you, if you took the time to personally sit down and watch this video right now, I have a feeling that you may have thought about picking up and moving somewhere, or maybe you've thought about a job that you want to take in a city, a town, a state that you've always thought about living in, maybe somewhere with nicer weather, somewhere that offers a little bit more than your hometown or wherever you are right now. If you're thinking about that and watching this video, I'm just here to tell you that I have so much passion in my heart about this topic. All I want to do is encourage you that if you can do it, I 10 out of 10, a billion% recommend that you do it. If I followed my dreams, and you can do it too. I made that decision for myself, and I've never been so happy in my entire life. Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about 10 reasons why I think that everybody should live alone at some point in their life. And I know that's not possible for everybody, I totally get that, but if you've ever thought about it, or you've thought about moving somewhere that might be a little more fun, might be more of the weather that you like, I just recommend that if you can, go for it, because I've learned so much about myself and I've grown so much from this experience that I wanted to share my passion for living alone with all of you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get into it. So just as a little background information, I moved July 15th of 2019. I moved from a town in Iowa to a town called Prescott Valley, Arizona. So that was about 1,500 miles from home. It took us 3 days in a U-Haul to move down here, a 24-hour car ride. I lived alone up until December of 2019. So I lived alone by myself for just about 5 months. Currently, I am living with my boyfriend. He did move down to Arizona from Iowa. I think it was December 28th of 2019. So he's been living here for already 4 months. That's crazy. So I did live by myself for 5 months before he moved in, and I love living with him, but I also learned so much from living by myself that I just thought that it would be such a good idea to make this video and help anyone who has thought about it for themselves. So this whole video, I have 10 different reasons that I just jotted down on a piece of paper. It took me like 5 minutes, and I just wanted to share the reasons why I think that living alone would be super beneficial for a lot of people out there. I have my notebook right here, and I will start from the top. So reason number 1 why I think that everybody should experience living alone: you gain so much independence from living by yourself, and I found that I gained a ton of respect for myself. When I say that, I don't mean that I didn't respect myself before moving down here, because obviously I did, but I didn't really understand my capabilities of functioning by myself, figuring things out for myself, especially in a completely foreign area. So when I moved to Arizona, I had no friends, I had no family, so I was literally going in blind. I didn't know a single soul. I was going out here on a whim by myself, and that was really scary, like super duper scary. So I think the fact that I was able to follow my dreams and not be all talk. I mean, I had told people for years that my plan after graduation, I really wanted to go move to Arizona. It was the state that I was most interested in living. And the fact that I actually followed through and I wasn't just saying that was a huge deal to me. I just think it was such a cool experience to move to this new place that was completely foreign to me starting out. Like driving down the roads, I had no idea where anything was, didn't know anybody, and I was able to make that place home, and I felt like I did that all by myself. So reason number 2 why I feel like everybody should experience living alone, what I have written down on my paper here is that you gain the love of like hanging out with yourself again. And that seems like a really odd thing to say because, I don't know, it's just weird. But I remember growing up in middle school, high school, I always really enjoyed my alone time. And I felt like I was fun to hang out with. I enjoyed being with myself. I enjoyed my own presence. I felt like I could come up with things to do and have a good time, and I didn't need anybody to help me to have a good time. That sounds bad. Basically, I just felt like I didn't have to rely on hanging out with others to actually enjoy my time, and I was at peace with being by myself. But then come college, when you're surrounded by all these friends, like literally everywhere. You're living with a friend. You're having a sleepover with your friend every single night. So I feel like through being surrounded by all those that I loved, all my friends, and then going home, seeing family on breaks, I think in the process of that, it just got lost. That love for hanging out with myself completely got lost, to be honest. I literally remember writing a journal entry when I was in college, and I remember being really sad when I was writing it. And I literally wrote on my piece of paper that I felt like I lost the love of hanging out with myself. In a way, it's not completely a bad thing, because that means that I was totally enjoying hanging out with all my friends, going home, seeing family. I was really happy, but the times when I was alone, I was craving to be with people. I was craving to be around others to hang out with and have a good time with. And I lost the satisfaction and content feeling of just being alone, just because I was so used to being around others. And then fast forward to graduating college in May, moving to Arizona in July, and then I was literally surrounded by nobody. Like, I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. So I had so much time to just sit with myself, and I had to figure out how to enjoy my time, because I couldn't just spend all of my free time being miserable by myself. So having that time to really focus on figuring out what I like to do helped me to find that love of hanging out with myself again, and that has been so important in my life. That brings us right into reason number 3. The third reason why I feel like everyone should live alone is that you have so much more time to devote to hobbies that you might have kind of pushed to the side, or hobbies that you didn't even know you had yet. You just have so much more time to explore all those hobbies. I just have written down in my notebook a couple examples of the hobbies that I found that I really enjoyed, that I hadn't been giving enough time to just because I didn't find the time, or I didn't have the time to do that when I was surrounded by all my loved ones, in school, around family, etc. So I have always had the hobby of baking. Like, that's been something that has always been really fun. I like to bake all the easy things like cookies and lemon bars and brownies, things like that. But I never really got to spend time baking things like bread. My grandma had taught me how to make bread, and I'd only ever made it with her. And so after moving in, I decided that that was one of the things that I really felt was special to me, learning my grandma's recipes and how to do them by myself. And so I devoted a ton of time to make all those recipes, and I actually ended up going 6 months without ever buying store-bought bread, which is crazy now that I think about it. But you have so much time. When you're baking bread, that takes time. The dough has to rise for an hour and a half, and then you mess with it, and then it has to rise for another hour and a half. And then you have to shape it or put it in pans, and it has to bake for another hour, hour and a half. A lot of times you just don't have time for that when you have so many other things going on in your life. Living alone gave me that extra free time to not feel rushed doing things like that. I felt like I could actually devote my time. He's back from his run? I don't like recording when Drew's here. He's literally already back from his run. I thought I had a long time. Say hi. Crazy?
I thought you were showing me when you was recording now.
So I ended up putting the camera down just for a few minutes just to talk to Drew, because he got home from his run and now he's off to take Lila to the vet and then to the grocery store. So back on track now. So one of the other hobbies that I've always had but just kind of stopped paying attention to, stopped giving time to, painting canvases. So I just have a couple here to show you. But anyways, yeah, I just used to spend hours painting, especially in high school. I used to paint with my friend Jane. Jane, if you see this, you're in pharmacy school, so you probably don't have time to see this. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I would get home and not really know what to do for the night, so I'd just turn on Netflix, paint for a few hours, have a glass of wine, and it was perfect. So it's just little things like that, because for example, now that Drew has moved in and I have him here all the time, at night I like to give my attention and my time to him, and we can watch something together or hang out. I don't really dedicate all that time to painting anymore. And then another hobby that I've always had, but well, I've always honestly given time for this hobby. I love to walk. And I found that walking helped me find time to be outside of the apartment, because sometimes you go a little stir crazy when you're all alone. And I would use that time to call my friends and family, catch up a little bit, and it made me feel like I was still with them. So that was always fun. And then an example of a hobby that I never really got into was going to the farmer's market. I just felt like the timing never really worked out, because when you're in college, a lot of times you're studying on the weekend or you have other obligations. So once I moved to Arizona by myself, I started just going to different farmers markets and walking around alone. And it was really cool too, because I felt like whenever I wanted to talk to some people before I knew anybody, I could go to the farmers market and just talk to the vendors, and they are so friendly. Like, they're such good people. They helped me feel like I was a big part of the community, which was really important when I was here by myself. Lastly, so if you're out there looking to grow in your faith, I feel like when I moved here by myself, trying to find new churches, that was a really intimidating thing for me, because walking into a church by yourself when you aren't familiar with where you're going and you feel like everyone has already established relationships within the church, it's scary, because everybody comes up to you, they want to talk to you, and you kind of feel a little bit like an outsider, like a loner. And so I actually tried 4 different churches until I finally found the one that I attend now that I absolutely adore. Finding a church that felt like home was essential, because in college, I never really found that at-home place, so I rarely, like super rarely, went to church on Sundays when I was in my college town, and that was something that I knew I wanted to get better about, and I'm happy that living alone helped push me to do that. Okay, so we got reason number 4, because you become so much more brave. Like, myself personally, I never ever in a million years would have thought of words to describe myself and said brave. Not that I was like a little baby or anything, but I just didn't consider myself someone who would step outside of her comfort zone very often. And then all of a sudden, there I am halfway across the country, living in a state, and I would picture this. Like, I could picture Arizona, the state, on the map, and then picture Iowa on the map, and think, oh my God, like, I don't know anybody in this entire state. I am in this state all alone, and all of my loved ones are up in this state. Like, how that was so weird to me. Anybody who doesn't know where Iowa is, no shame. I don't blame you. Lots of people don't. This is just a little Hobby Lobby painting we have on our wall. Iowa is right here. So I lived about right there in Iowa, and Arizona is right here, and I live northern Arizona around there. Here to here. So I was sitting in my room in Arizona right here thinking about, oh my gosh, everybody I know is up there. It was terrifying. So going along with the brave topic, like, you have to be brave in so many different ways. I felt like that made me brave right off the bat, just moving, following my dreams, doing it despite not knowing anybody. But you also, especially as a girl, you have to make sure that you're safe where you're living. And so I immediately made it a point to make friends with my neighbors, figure out who I could trust, and get their numbers. So I knew that I always had someone to fall back on in case anything happened. So I did that. And of course, the little things like always locking the door. I even got a little, on Amazon, it was a door wedge security device. So you put it, it's like a doorstop. And if anybody tries to open the door, if they somehow got it unlocked, then it would send off this ear-piercing, horrible alarm. And that was just so if someone entered the apartment from the front door and I'm in the master bedroom, I would have time to wake up and react. My boyfriend actually made me get that, so shout out to Drew, that was really sweet. So going along with the brave topic goes into number 5. The reason why I think everybody should live alone at some point is, especially if you move somewhere new, that's like the key in this one. You have a completely fresh start to make new friends, and you have to put yourself out there to make friends. And if you're comfortable and you've been comfortable in a set group of awesome friends that you have, Like, that's scary. It's a totally different feeling to start fresh. The thing that I didn't realize is that in the past, all of the friends I made were through school or through sports. For example, in college, I moved in 2 weeks early for volleyball. And so I met all of these amazing girls that I'm still friends with today through volleyball. So I had that set up for me. And then I was in nursing school, and I had that set up for me. I was in a group of like-minded people going to school for the same things. You do clinicals together, all your classes together. I moved here and I didn't realize that work and my coworkers would be the only way to really meet people. But other than that, like, I had to go out of my way to make new friends. However, work introduced me to one of my amazing friends. Her name is Christina, and I'm a registered nurse, and so this was my first nursing job. She was my preceptor as I was a new grad nurse, and we became so close. Like, it's been amazing, and I'm so thankful for her. She really got my feet wet into feeling like I was at home in Arizona, and I give some of the credit to her that she really helped me feel like I belonged in this town, at my hospital, etc. Christina also forced me to go to a spin class with her, and spin class was not something I was comfortable with in the first place. She made me go to this spin studio called B-Pedal in Prescott, and oh my gosh, I love this group of girls. I love the atmosphere. It feels like a home to me. I felt like I was a part of the community in the spin studio as well. The biggest thing about this entire video is you have to get yourself out of your comfort zone. And some of the other awesome friends that I met, I had actually signed up to be a dog sitter on a site called Rover, if you guys have heard of it. And it was so cool because I was literally getting paid to meet these awesome people, and I would come and get to hang out with their pets, cuddle with their pets. It was just a way to get that little stress relief. And anyways, side note, but I met my really good friends, Amy and Tracy, through there. They were gonna have me watch their dogs, and it ended up not working out, but I could tell that she was just a really cool person, and she had asked if I wanted to have a play date with our 2 dogs. But at the time, my dog was still in Iowa. I ended up being like, well, my dog's not here yet, but do you want to get coffee? And so I met her and her husband for coffee, and we've been friends ever since. We go on hikes together, we go out to lunches, we hang out at each other's places. Was I nervous to go to Starbucks and meet these strangers and put myself out there? Yeah. But did I get these amazing lifetime friends through it? Yeah. And so it is completely possible, and I know that if you do take the step to live alone, know that the friend thing is not going to be immediate, and it's going to be scary, but it will happen. Give it time. I still don't have a whole ton of friends that I do things with, but it's coming in time, and I'm being patient. So going out there and making all these new friends, it totally doesn't mean that you're replacing your friends back home. Your friends back home will understand, they'll know that. Just keep in touch with them, make them know you still love them, and it's important to put yourself out there again and make some new friends. Okay, so reason number 6 why I feel like everyone should get to experience living alone at least one time in their life. This is especially important for me as a new graduate registered nurse. I'm in my first year of nursing. You have to learn how to cope with the stress of your bad days. You have to learn how to deal with your sad moods. And I feel like for myself, I never had negative coping skills, but I would often depend quite a bit on friends and family to kind of lift me up and pick me up off my feet, go do something fun with them when I was having a bad day. And then when you live alone, you can't come home and cry to your friends and family because they're not there. And that's scary. But it ended up in the long run being really good for me because I know that I can deal with the things that life throws at me by myself. And I don't need anybody. Of course, I want everybody in my life, but I don't rely so heavily on them to help me. And I mean, yeah, you can call your friends and family and ask them to listen to you, to let you vent, to give you advice. But especially when you're moving to a new state, for example, when I moved here, there was a 2-hour time difference. So if I had something go bad or I was feeling sad at 10 p.m., it was already midnight back home. And so you can't always just count on picking up the phone and having others help you. This one's really important because you learn how to cope by yourself. Trust me, it makes you a stronger person. Not relying on others to pick you up leads right into my 7th reason why I feel like everyone should live alone at some point. And that is that you learn through experience. That's the biggest thing, experience. That you have total control over your own mood. And I know bad things can happen in your day, and of course that's going to change your mood, but you determine if that's going to be the rest of your day. If the whole rest of your day is going to revolve around one thing that happened and you're going to be pissed off the rest of the day because of it. I definitely knew before moving in by myself that I was in control of my own mood. I mean, that's obvious. People talk about it all the time. However, I didn't truly understand the scope of that until I lived alone. On a daily basis, when I lived here by myself, I would wake up and I personally would make the choice if I was going to have a good day or a bad day. Of course, not every single day I was going to be all cheerful and pick myself up, but I learned through that experience that I couldn't just dwell in a little bowl of pity. And I feel like my best example of that is in the first couple of months that I lived here by myself, didn't have really many friends at all. My boyfriend wasn't here. I used the word lonely. And that was a bad word to use, and I learned that over time. I feel like calling myself lonely was the most unhealthy way of looking at it because it would instantly, when I felt loneliness creep in, it would change my mood for the day. It took me a little bit of time to start noticing that pattern, that when I would talk about being lonely or text my friends and family that I was lonely, I would find myself kind of, sitting here kind of moping around, not doing anything productive or fun. And I learned to stop that. Instead of saying I was lonely, I would start saying, oh yeah, I miss being around you guys. I do miss you guys. Like, just by cutting out the word lonely, somehow clicked something in my brain and it helped my moods. And everyone will be different. Everyone will have their own little triggers that can start causing bad moods or sad moods. And as soon as you pick up on that pattern, you learn how to change it. Because if you don't change it and you have all these sad, bad moods, that's not fun. Living alone won't be fun then. That was one of the biggest things that I learned and I'll take with me forever is that if I let things bother me, I'm gonna have a bad day. And like I said, I knew that before, but I know that on such a stronger level nowadays. On those days that I did feel lonely or I just started to feel a little bit, a tinge of homesickness, I missed all my people, I learned that the best thing to get me through it was filling my time like crazy. I would literally be doing things constantly. I would go from one thing to the next, to the next, and the next, to the next. Like, I would just do things that I enjoyed. If I wanted to go on a walk, I'd go on a walk. I'd get home. If I wanted to bake something, I would bake something. If I didn't, then I'd pick something else to do. And I just kept stacking all these different activities until I distracted myself enough to start enjoying my time doing those things, and the bad mood, sad mood went away. And that's awesome. That's such a good lesson to learn. And like I said, you don't really learn that as much when you're surrounded by people. Don't know if that makes sense, but if you live alone or lived alone, it would. A little side note from that one actually would be whenever I'd have a bad body image day in high school, middle school, high school, college, that would just totally throw off my mood. And then living alone, waking up and no one else was here and I didn't have plans all the time, I realized that nobody cared what I looked like. It changed the way that I think about it. And I realized that it doesn't matter the way I look. Obviously, the people that love me are going to love me no matter what. And that's something that I've carried with me, and that's huge for me. Reason number 8 why I feel like everyone should experience living alone at some point. I wrote here that you learn to put a new, different twist on the effort that you would use to show your family and your friends that you love them, you're thinking about them, you miss them. And so I started writing tons of letters to my friends and family, to the point where my mom would respond to a letter, open up my little card, and a book of stamps would fall out. And I don't know, that was such a cool feeling because I knew that she went through the effort to go get a book of stamps so she could continue to get letters from me. That was just a really fun way for me to communicate with all my friends and family, let them know I'm thinking about them, and do it in an old-fashioned way that I normally wouldn't have taken time to do if I was surrounded by all of them. Reason number 9 why I think that everybody should experience living alone at some point in their life: responsibility. So I'm talking like way back to elementary school. I felt like no matter what age I was, I did have a strong sense of responsibility and I could demonstrate that. But it is literally a totally different ballgame when you're living all alone, and especially when you're living somewhere far away. There's a lot to juggle, and I feel like that really helped. It helped me start feeling responsible as an adult. I feel like this was the jumpstart of my adult life. I can't rely on mom and dad. I don't have my friends to fall back on. I don't have classmates to remind me when an assignment is due, remind me when I have to go to a meeting. I don't have my parents helping me remember when to pay bills, or my boyfriend telling me when to pay rent. Or as a nurse, you have a lot of certifications and licensing things that you need to renew every so often. I mean, now I don't have anyone telling me to do that. Especially living alone, everything fell on my own shoulders. And then, of course, there's the little responsibilities that go with having my first apartment by myself, and that was paying the rent, which is astronomical for one person starting their first job after all of the moving expenses. And then like cleaning the apartment, taking care of it, making sure that this is an environment that I want to live in. Okay, number 10. This one is one of my top 3 of all my reasons that I love, is you get to do things on your own time. All of your time is your time when you live alone. And I mean, obviously, I'm a registered nurse, so I do have responsibility and obligation to my patients. I give them my time. But my free time after work, I come home, and when I lived here alone, all of that free time, I got to decide what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. If I didn't feel like doing something I had already planned on doing, no one was gonna judge me for it. I could have a day on my couch, in my pajamas, eating snacks and watching TV all day if I wanted to do it. Or I could have days where I would be productive, I would do some online training for work, I would clean the apartment, I would take time to write letters to family and friends, I would call my loved ones, so have a more productive day. Or I could just have a hobby day and literally jump from one thing to the next that I just feel like doing that day. And I could wake up and determine what the day was going to look like based on a feeling, not based off of plans that I made ahead of time with other people. Because that's one thing you don't really have the opportunity to do when you live around all your friends and family. There's usually at least 1 to 2 plans a week, and I mean sometimes you have 1 to 2 plans a day, where if you didn't feel like doing that day, sometimes it could feel like a chore. Whereas if you live alone and you don't want to do something, like, that's fine. Do something that you do want to do. Alrighty guys, so that concludes my top 10 reasons why I think that everybody should live alone at some point in their lives. I totally understand that that's not possible for everybody. Not everybody can just pick up what they're doing and live alone. But I'm assuming if you, watching this video, yes, if you took the time to personally sit down and watch this video right now, I have a feeling that you may have thought about picking up and moving somewhere, or maybe you've thought about a job that you want to take in a city, a town, a state that you've always thought about living in. Maybe somewhere with nicer weather, somewhere that offers a little bit more than your hometown or wherever you are right now. If you're thinking about that and watching this video, I'm just here to tell you that I have so much passion in my heart about this topic. All I want to do is encourage you that if you can do it, I 10 out of 10, 1,000,000,000% recommend that you do it. So if this video does anything, if it could help even just one person, just one, more hopefully, wholeheartedly, I want everybody to experience what I got to experience for 5 months of my life. Those 5 months, I mean, that's not that long. 5 months is not that long. but it was life-changing for me. It changed me as a person. It made me love myself more, respect myself more, know that I can take on life and stress, especially starting a new career with nobody to talk to about it in person. But falling back and knowing that I did that all by myself. I followed my dreams, and you can do it too. And I don't want it to sound like this crazy person who's trying to like shove you into a big decision, but if I had one piece of advice, taking that jump can be super scary, and I know it's a big deal and it's a lot of time and money to get there, but if you hate it, it's not the end of the world. You can go back to where you're from. I think that if you give yourself enough self-respect to say that you can do this and to believe in yourself, you're going to prove yourself wrong. If you're nervous and you don't know if you can do it, I'm here to say that if I can do it, you can do it, and that your friends and your family, even your boyfriend. Like, I moved away from my long-term boyfriend. That was a big stressor on our relationship, but we made it through. If it's meant to be, it will be. You'll make it through. They'll forgive you. They'll support you. If they don't support you, then I'm really sorry. That would make it a lot harder, I'm not gonna lie, but do it for yourself. I made that decision for myself, and I've never been so happy in my entire life. And so obviously now I live with my boyfriend, and I love living with my boyfriend, but I'm so beyond thankful for those 5 months that I got by myself, because thinking back now, those were probably the only 5 months that I'll ever have again in my life to live by myself and to figure things out for myself, learn about who I am. And I'm here to just blabber at you that that could be you too. Do it for you, okay? I love you all. If you stuck around to listen to me talk for this long, you're a champion. You're here for a reason, and I'm here to tell you to do it. If I haven't said that enough, I love you guys. Thank you for taking your time. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I would really be so thankful for it. So if you still have time and you're bored, go ahead and click up there on this video here, and you can watch my boyfriend, Drew, and I cut the poor kid's hair, like, oh my goodness gracious. But yeah, now that I live with him, he has to put up with me doing stuff like that, especially during quarantine. And if you're still bored after that, or this sounds more interesting, you can click up here and you can see my very first YouTube video. It was an apartment tour of my Arizona apartment. Yeah, that was a long time ago, and it was filmed on my iPhone, so forgive me for that. But here it is up here if you would like to watch.